Monday. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Donovan McNabb in the house, Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman. I'm Molly Karam, and besides, guys, getting into a lot of...
Don't shake my hand. He's sick.
A lot of intense topics. I know. We're doing some serious...
That's right.
Some gym time here. We're all going to be putting in a little bit later
Absolutely.
today. We've all been eating pretty well.
I'm just trying to look out for my man, Max. I just wanted to say on this this Monday morning, I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Mine was a little bit rough. Too many damn kids around, but that's a different subject for another day.
Time out. Look, I thought Stevie A loves the kids.
He sure does. He sure does. But damn it, it was too many of them. But Max, I just want to let the world know he's a little bit sick today. So the regular beat down, I'm going to step back. Give me a little knock.
You're going to
Give me a little knock.
Right. I'm good. I'm feeling good. I got to see Lomachenko put it on Walters.
Oh, my God, don't give me
Lomachenko, that's a bad boy.
Walters quit. Walters quit. I don't even want to talk about him.
All right, let's get into some football.
Yep.
We start with Sunday Night Football, where the Kansas City Chiefs blew a fourth-quarter lead, only to come back and win the game in Denver in overtime at a 34-yard field goal after the Broncos mixed a 62-yard kick. Kansas City now moves to 8-3, good for second in the division. The loss puts the Broncos 2 games behind the Raiders in the AFC West and out of the playoff picture. Max, will the Broncos make the playoffs?
I cannot believe I'm sitting here and saying this at this point in the season because I thought they were one of the 2 best teams in the AFC to start the season. No, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And it just comes down to their schedule. You got the Jags on the road. You got the Titans on the road. Then you have the Patriots, Chiefs on the road, and the Raiders. That is murderer's row of a schedule. And it's not so much that they're not as good as the other teams, even in their division, the Chiefs or the Raiders. But that schedule is brutal, and they have ground to make up in order to get it. I just don't see it.
I think they make the playoffs. And we've talked about how great this conference is. I should say has been. But it's about quarterback play. I mean, when you look at Derek Carr and the emergence of this year alone and being an MVP candidate, leading this team with a lack of defense from at least half of the season, now they're starting to turn things around. Then you go over to Kansas City. Andy Reid has done a great job with Alex Smith of just having him manage it intermediately. What I mean by that is just throwing passes under 12 to 15 yards and just moving the ball methodically. Their defense is outstanding, and I think they will only continue to get better. Now, as far as the Denver Broncos is concerned, I think they beat the Oakland Raiders in that last game of the season. I think they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. We already know they're going to beat Jacksonville. So right there, that's 10 wins. And I believe they steal another one as they go along. So
if you just give them road wins against the Chiefs and they're going to beat the Raiders, just give it to them, sure.
The thing about the Kansas City Chiefs that has pulled me away from them a little bit is the lack of run game. With Jamal Charles being out, I'm looking for Ware to carry the load a little bit more, and he just hasn't done it as well as I thought he would.
We're going to get into Kansas City a little bit later in the next segment. Let me just answer your question directly and look at this man right here, the blasphemy coming out of your mouth. I will not disrespect the reigning defending Super Bowl champions in such a fashion. I will show Akeem Talib more respect with that. I will show Chris Harris more respect than that. You know, this kid, Roby and the crew. I will show them more respect than that. They are the reigning, defending Super Bowl champions with an elite defense that has been suspect against the run. We understand that. But I remind you that New England Patriots game coming up, that Oakland Raiders game coming up, both of those games are in Denver. I mean, when you talk about Kansas City against Denver, no matter where it's at, it's a pick'em, okay? So we got to look at it from that perspective, and we know they're going to beat Jacksonville. So we're talking about 10 wins. And I think, Max, I don't know if you realize the magnitude of your words and how disrespectful they are, and I'm going to help you out here. When we look at the AFC South, we all know the winner is, the winner's going to come out of that. And there's not going to be a wild card out of that division. That's all I'm trying to say, right? We know that. Scratch that. Same could be said right now for the AFC North because you got Baltimore and Pittsburgh at 6-5. Cincinnati's done. Cleveland, Lord have mercy. So we won't even get to that, okay? Then we go to the AFC East. Well, it's New England. But then after that, even though Miami's 7-4, what I'm saying to you, listen what I'm saying. We're talking about the AFC West possibly having 3 teams in the playoffs. So I'm looking at it from the perspective that if you're going to tell me that the Denver Broncos are going to miss out, you're saying either somebody from the South or North or the Miami Dolphins with Ryan Tannehill are
He
going
was
to the
throwing the
playoffs.
ball well yesterday.
Well,
he
stop
was.
it, Molly.
They weren't just running it. He was throwing well. And that defense was coming
By
on
the way,
still and wait.
I sprinkle water on her. Stop the haterade. Stop it right
She's
now.
not wrong.
I don't. She's going to be
not
wrong. Ultimately,
I'm a staunch anti-Tannehill guy through these last couple of years, but I got to admit what I see. He's playing pretty well.
The month of November, he's had over 100 QB rating.
I do understand that.
My
and
man,
Gase is doing an exceptional job with them. And the guy we know could run the football, etc. You know, it came down to the wire where you had to stop Colin Kaepernick. You know, the modern day Malcolm X wannabe.
He was balling.
That was the best
He was balling. I know you're a little upset because he didn't go vote. Give him some credit now.
Give him some credit.
Give him some credit.
I'm allergic to that right now. I'm just allergic to that right now. I can't help it.
We're more upset about his Fidel Castro comments, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, I know you are. But I mean, we're talking about football.
We're talking football. In football, listen, he was high. You know, he stepped up. He made some plays, but ultimately, again, couldn't get it done. All I'm saying is these are the San Francisco 49ers that walked into this game having lost 9 straight, and you're the Miami Dolphins, and you're struggling. And I'm supposed to give you the edge over 3 teams in the AFC West? I'm not doing it. So that's why I say Denver will probably make the playoffs, because the team they got to watch out for most is Miami, and I don't see it. I just don't.
Got a brutal schedule. You guys are just kind of giving them that.
They're the champion
for a win. Like, you think the Raiders are real or not?
I do.
Well, the Raiders are real, but I think more of the question shouldn't be about is Denver going to make the playoffs? Will Kansas City make the playoffs? They have a tough road finishing up toward the end of their schedule as well. So you just talked about it, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans. I think those are 2 wins the Denver Broncos will get.
I don't know about the Titans on the road.
The thing about Tennessee is we never talk about their defense, and I think when you look at what the Denver Broncos have been able to do, when you look at the receivers that they have, I don't think that the Tennessee Titans can stop them as far as passing the ball. They couldn't stop Chicago and Barkley.
I like about this. How you talk to them until Sunday. So Donovan will sit there and dissect stuff. Sounds very astute and all of that stuff. And if you catch a crack in his argument, you can't find them. That's what you do on this show. You come here Monday, all right? You wrong by Wednesday or Thursday. We got to go through Friday, and then we forget by Monday what the hell you said.
Could you tweet at us at least?
You got to be found, Donovan McNabb. Because let me tell you something. When I look at Kansas City, let's look at the schedule. Atlanta's going to be tough. Oakland, Tennessee, Denver, San Diego. Tough schedule, no doubt.
Yeah.
But Kansas City, coached by the great Andy Reid.
Absolutely.
Give it up. Okay, your coach. All
Absolutely.
right. Give him love. I can give Colin Kaepernick love, but
I give Andy some love.
Give him love.
They just barely beat San Diego. I don't think
Donovan.
Show him the love.
The problem with Andy Reid is going to show up later in the playoffs, not during the regular season.
See why you got to go there? See, you know what I mean?
There we go.
Right.
All I'm
Giants
saying
fans.
is, go there we go.
Let's stay in the AFC West. Let's go to the Raiders. It was a wild one in the black hole where we saw last year's MVP in Cam Newton take on this year's potential MVP in Derek Carr. After the Raiders gave up 25 straight points, Carr, with a crooked pinky finger gamer, orchestrated his 9th game-winning drive yesterday. That's the 2nd most in the NFL in the 4th quarter or overtime in the last 2 seasons, defeating Carolina 35-32. Khalil Mack ended the game with a strip sack and now has a sack in 6 straight games, the longest active streak in the NFL. Stephen A., are the Raiders the best team in the AFC West?
You know what? As much as I've raved about them, and I still do because their offense is elite, I don't want to say they're the best team in the AFC West. I'm going to have to give that love to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to do it. Here's why. Bevy of injuries, particularly with the absence of Jamal Charles, they just find a way to get it done. There's something about them that reminds me of when you guys, the year y'all Philadelphia Eagles went to the Super Bowl in this respect. Somehow, some way, when adversity hits, they don't panic. They find a way to usually get it done. I know they lost the week before to Tampa, and I get all that. Alex Smith, QBR of 50, hasn't been himself. I get all of that. We got concussed against Indianapolis a few weeks ago. Hasn't seemed the same, even though he denies that there's any changes in him. He just said that the defenses have been tough. I don't buy that. But I look at Kansas City right now, Macklin being out for a 3rd consecutive game, Jamal Charles being out, Alex Smith not having been himself. And somehow, some way, with Eric Berry and Tamba Ali and Houston and the crew, these guys are finding a way to make things happen. And this kid Hall, oh, my Lord have mercy. These boys showed up yesterday. I'm just looking at Kansas City right now, a team that smacked around the Raiders when they played them earlier this year.
Right.
And I'm saying Arrowhead Stadium, you know how tough it is to play there, you know, and I'm looking at where they are right now in terms of both sides of the football and special teams. I can't definitively give it to anybody in the West over them right now because of how they've looked.
So disrespectful.
Yeah, you just raved about the Denver Broncos making the playoffs over all these other teams.
I didn't say anything about what they winning the
All
division.
these other teams, you were totally disrespectful to Tannehill and his 100.
Excuse me, Donovan. You were disrespectful to this man.
Yeah.
So disrespectful. Talking about comparing Alex Smith, who's a fine quarterback, to Donovan McNabb.
I wasn't comparing him. I was talking about Philly,
Kansas City. Kansas City.
I was not. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
But the difference is Donovan McNabb. By the way, I'm happy to say this on TV about you because I haven't had a chance yet. Donovan McNabb was basically John Elway minus the last 2 years of his career, and that is not Alex Smith. They lived in the NFC Championship game.
I am not comparing Alex Smith to Donovan McNabb. I'm comparing the Philadelphia Eagles of the year that they went there to what I'm seeing from Kansas City right now in terms of facing adversity and making things happen. How do y'all isolate Alex Smith and Donovan McNabb? It's a setup, you politicians. It's a setup.
You felt it, didn't you? Donovan, when he said it, you felt that, right? First thing was, you called me Alex Smith.
So that's what we do now. Felix, it felt that way. It felt that way.
Look, you say you've been a booster of the Raiders, and now you're doing an about face. Let me say Raiders Nation, and they have a nation. Like, you talk about national following.
Right.
Maybe we haven't paid enough attention to them just based on their fan base this year. It's the Cowboys and Steelers, of course, and the Raiders. They have a huge national following.
Offense, not them.
I'm just talking about how interested people are in them, even out of market. Their offense is tremendous. They have a great offensive line. It's comparable to the Cowboys' offensive line. It's elite. They have, I'm going to talk about the quarterback in a second, a couple of excellent receivers.
True.
I mean, Crabtree has, fulfilled his potential there. And their defense is coming around. It's gotten much better as the season's come along.
You're going to say this off of them giving up 25 straight?
Because when you go from the worst in the league to something better than that, all you need in Oakland is a bend but don't break defense. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, as some people do. But let me just say where I've been wrong about them. I've considered them because...
You talk about all these guys that can make plays happen. T.J. Ward can come in the box. He can play from a distance. But when you look at the Oakland Raiders, that's part of their weakness is their secondary. Yeah, offensively, you might go into the playoffs and win one game, but your defense has to carry the load through. And I don't think that they're able to do that. We can talk so much about Khalil Mack. I think he's one of the best defensive players in the league, if he's not defensive player of the year.
Question.
But where else is going to be anybody going to create something from that opposite side?
You're talking about winning a Super Bowl. I agree.
No, I'm talking about winning in the playoffs. Winning in the playoffs.
Are they the best team in the AFC West?
Is it? I still think the Denver Broncos.
When push comes to shove, though, Donovan, I hear what you're saying. Like the Chiefs should be, or the Broncos should be. What I'm saying is, I agreed with that up until yesterday, where finally it's like, you know what?
They gave up 25 straight.
It's a terrible day to do that.
But their quarterback shows
how he came
every time that with the chips on the line, he's the best player on the team.
Perfect
example. We're talking about their defense. We can say the same thing about the New England Patriots. When Tom Brady was out, somebody else stepped in. But their defense still is a question. We can talk New England Patriots all the time. But when your quarterback is in there, yeah, you have the confidence that you can win the game. But if you're giving up 25 straight points versus the Carolina Panthers, who their season is over with, right? And what do you think is going to happen in the playoffs when you play against some of these tough teams in the AFC? That's the only thing that I'm worried about. I love Derek Carr. I love Murray. I love Crabtree. I love what I'm seeing with Amari Cooper. But they don't play defense. And if you can't stop anybody on defense and they're constantly gashing you with the intermediate passing game and the run game,
they're not going to win the Super Bowl.
Standing on the sideline.
They're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they're the best team in the division.
Being the best team in the division.
You can't say that if you only talk about one side of the ball.
Right.
Yeah, actually.
You're thinking that Carr could cover the sins. He's enough of a gamer.
I've been on the other side of this argument all year. But at a certain point, like they say,
the Giants' defense and the lack of offense.
They say in nature twice is coincidence, 3 times is pattern. Derek Carr's been doing this all year, like 10 times already.
Pause for a second here. Let's rewind that for a second here. You know why I got a problem with your position? Because what Derek Carr them did yesterday, they've essentially been doing all season. Their offense has been. So in other words, Max did what I can understand saying if the defense showed up and looked lights out yesterday.
Right.
No, they just did what they've been doing all year, and Max didn't want to accept it. Now,
Well,
the epiphany has hit you
Yep.
in terms
And
of
I'll tell you why.
We
The way
know
that
offense
game,
is elite.
the way that game was going when they started bleeding, right?
Yes.
It just felt like they were going to lose the game. Like, oh, here it comes. Because some people did pick Carolina going into this game. It was a topic
lot of
on our
people
show.
did.
I thought
It had the feeling of a game they could lose.
It was a
must-win for them.
And when it started happening, you thought, here it comes. The magic runs out. And what Derek Carr showed is the magic doesn't run out because it's not like a parlor trick. This is what he had.
Khalil Mack called it the Mamba in him. He said the Kobe in him comes out.
Your analysis ain't wrong. All I'm saying to you is that he's been doing it, and you didn't want to accept
Well,
it.
I may be
picture,
slow,
Matt.
but I'm not
He's
stupid.
Yeah, look at the whole picture, man.
We'll accept that.
Yeah.
We'll accept that.
All right.
Way to go.
We
Way
want
to
you
go.
guys to weigh in at home. Are the Raiders the best team in the AFC? Vote on the First Take Twitter page. We'll show those results a little later in the show. Donovan is sticking around. And coming up next, the Packers playoff are slim chances unless they win out. And someone believes they can, and it starts tonight against the Eagles.
I think getting closer to that, we've really been clicking at times in the last few games, but I just feel like it just takes one. We get one under our belts, things might start rolling for us, and we can run the table.
Look what you done.